Let's start by getting your reaction to those comments from the WHO Director General. He's called for calm across asset markets. Do you think this is going to have an impact, or is it going to get worse before it gets any better?
Well, it's very good that he's called for calm, but it obviously is going to make no difference at all. Obviously, what we want from the Director General of the World Health Organization is rationality, someone who says, look at the facts, let's respond to that. But that's not how markets work, is it? Markets respond very quickly. Markets weren't really paying attention to it until last week, and now they are. My expectation is that we're going to be watching the data very closely. Sure, Federal Reserve, if they respond, we're seeing fiscal responses out of Italy. That's all positive. That should calm things down for the time. But we're not out of the woods yet.
Chris, it's interesting, isn't it, when we take a step back and think about this and how it's going to impact this region. We're talking about lower oil prices. We're talking about a lot of fear ahead of this OPEC Plus meeting. And if you just take a quick look at the head of the cover of this Arabian Business magazine, I mean, when we think about this part of the world in terms of the rumor mill and the fear-mongering, how worried should we be about this economy specifically? The UAE, we're heading into Expo 2020. We're talking about an international transportation hub that's had to, essentially tell people to stay home, don't come to work, because they're not filling the flights.
Yeah, well, it's precisely not what this region needs at the moment. It's been suffering hugely over the last few years because of lower oil prices. Now, remember, those oil prices filter through into higher deficits, fiscal deficits, and we've had a lot of fiscal control, and that's really slowed domestic growth rapidly. Obviously, if you see the oil price back down at $50 a barrel for an extended period of time, that's going to force governments to cut spending and to continue to roll out fiscal control. That's obviously very bad for the economy anyway. Plus, you have the sentiment, you have an international hub here. It's a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really uncertain as to what happens next. Are you able to quantify the economic impact that this is going to have in Q1 or even Q2? Can you put a figure on it?
Yeah, well, let's try and sort of work backwards, if you like. I mean, China is now looking at 4.5% growth this year, let's say, as opposed to 6%. So if it's 20% of the global economy, that would be global economy growing at 2.75%, not 3%. But then think about the impact on the rest of the world, not just China, and you're down at 2.5%. Think about the worst case scenario. Think about growth falling 25% globally. You're talking more like 2% growth across the world. That's very, very significant.